going to look at the full BMI Lab, and I've already got my skeleton set up. We're using user input, so I've got my import, I've got my scanner established. So let's jump into it. Write a program to calculate the user's BMI, body mass index, a value derived from the weight of a person compared to their height. The formula is as follows. BMI is weight in kilograms divided by height squared in meters. Okay. Now, order of operations mean we have to square the bottom before we divide. It's not like some of the problems where you can go in whatever order and it works. We still have to square before we divide. BMI can be used to indicate whether a person is overweight or underweight and can be a predictor of overall health, though its usefulness is questionable in that regard for a couple of reasons, and it doesn't account for things like muscle mass. Your program should ask the user's height in inches, get the user's weight in pounds, use the BMI scale to convert our units, and then we'll output. So someone that's 69 inches and weighs 160 pounds has a BMI of 23.648. Note, don't worry about very minor differences in the output result. It depends slightly on the conversion factors you use. It also depends on which way you go. And for each of these values, there's actually two options you could do. You'll still get approximately the same result, but we'll look at those as we convert. Remember, floating point values are imprecise, unlike integers, and are basically approximations of real numbers subject to round-off errors. Again, if you have pi that's read out to 5 decimal places, you'll get a slightly different answer than if you have pi rounded to 20 decimal places out, okay? So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. We've actually got 4 little steps we got to do. So we have to do our prompts. Then our one for this problem, we have to do our conversions. Then we'll do our calculations or our math, and then we'll do our print statement. Oops. Okay, prompt, very simple. Print line, and I'll come down here to their sample. Enter height in inches. Oops, we've got those. Don't let anybody tell you they're perfect coding. All right, so here we go. We're expecting inches, so that's an integer value. So we'll just go height. Scan.next int. Is it possible they could interpret that as a fraction? Yeah, but you're very rarely going to hear somebody say, oh, well, what's my height? I am 67¼ inches. So we're erring on the side of caution. Then we just repeat the value repeat the process for weight. And again, we'll assume whole numbers as well. There you go. So there's our prompts. Now the conversions is a new thing for us. We haven't had to do this too many times, but it also is going to be one of our more varieties of doing things about it. So number of inches to number of meters is set. We know that. But depending on how you interpret it and what operation you prefer, you could go about it either way. So if we just did, let's look at height first, I guess. So we know that 1 inch is the same thing as 0.0254 meters. And no, I do not know that by memory. I've got it written down right here. Or we could go the other way around and say 39.3701 inches is equal to 1 meter. Okay. So if I do inches, I'm going to if I use the top value, I'm going to multiply. If I'm going to use the bottom, I'm going to divide. Does not matter which one you do, but it just matters which you do. I had a lot of people that were getting crazy numbers, and the only reason was because they did the wrong operation. So I've got height, so let's do it this way. Height times equal 0.0254. There you go. That will multiply my inches by that measure, convert them into meters, and save it right back in that same variable, so I don't have to mess around with it. And for those that are curious, if they went the other route, it would look like this. Divide equal 39.701. Okay? Does not matter which one you choose. It's just going to depend on your operation, whether you're multiplying or dividing, and which value you're choosing. Another way you're going to get different answers, okay? So I stopped at 4 decimals here. I stopped at 3 decimals here. If you have more or less, your answers will vary slightly, but they're still going to be within that scope of, that's fairly acceptable, okay? So that's our height taken care of. Weight, very similar, okay? So I've got 1 pound is equal to 0.453592 kilograms, or 2.20462 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. Okay? Again, does not matter which one I choose, but it will change my operation. So I'll do the same process. Multiply 0.453592, and I'm putting a lot of decimals there. You didn't have to, but it's just what I'm doing. Weight divide equal for our other version would be 2.20462. Okay? Either one of those works. You have options, and depending on how specific you are with your variables, your answers will differ slightly. That's okay. Okay? Calculations. Now that we've got everything converted, it's pretty simple. Okay? So we look down here, weight divided by height squared. Now getting my height to square first is the only real catch there. So double BMI, now keep it lowercase. So height divided by, oh, I had it backwards, oops. Weight divided by height times height, okay? Now, not done, because the height squaring has to come first, I stick it in parentheses, okay? That was the biggest missed opportunity there. It cost you like a point, but that's fine. And because a lot of people like those math functions, I'll go ahead and show you that too. This does not require parentheses because it's a method. It will just work prior height to, okay? So either one of those would work for your calculating BMI. And our last but not least, I grab their phrasing, your BMI is, and I concatenate with our answer we calculated. Okay? So that's it. Prompt, conversion, calculation, and then our print statement. So let's try it out, and we'll use their sample condition. Okay? Enter their height in inches, 160. Ooh. Okay, so what you just saw was a problem when we ran it. We got a very different result. Did a little bit of digging, and I found out that's because of something we've talked about a few times in our programs, when we're dividing integers by other integers. And so if we're going to do that, we have to be a little cautious. So the quick and easiest fix for this is to go back up to our measures and just make them doubles. We don't expect anybody to give me their inches or their pounds in decimals, but if we do, we're prepared for it now. It also will help us a little bit when we do our conversions, since those are in decimals right now. When we do our calculations, that means it will go ahead and feed into a double. And so now, if we rerun it a second time, just by changing our data types, we should get the right answer, or at least a lot closer than we did. Yeah, 23. Okay, so notice I very likely had more decimals in some of these than they did, and my answer differs slightly, those parts, but I still have the 23.6, all within potential error. But that's BMI. Again, we didn't change any of the code except we changed the data types just to make sure we were accepting of decimal values. Okay? That's it. Good luck.